makes it easy on me, but
Today we've got to talk about one of the biggest launches of the year, of course, Path of Exile 2, and how it's doing what Diablo 4 did not. And I bring that up as an angle not to bash Blizzard, right? That's not really the point. The point is that products cannot escape how they were made, or in this case, how they were shipped. Path of Exile 2 is a game that is getting so much right. It's managed to sidestep so much of what torpedoed Diablo 4's at least initial online sentiment, and when we go into the detail of the creation of these games, it gets even better. So this is a big one, an important one, and one that we're going to put in context, of course supported by today's sponsor. We're going to help you transform doom scrolling into skills you can be
all right, we're gonna skip this.
That means writing a little bit of a raw off an annual plan, which is something you won't regret. But first we got to check in with the numbers. They are mighty. This is a hell of a success. So Steam peaked.
Oh, the numbers and day one. I mean, like when we couldn't even get in, I was looking at the Steam chart, Steam DB on this and POV1, and I think this game surpassed the peak of POV1 like in a few hours. And that's not even counting the consoles, Xbox, PlayStation.
With 578k players placing this in the all-time top 20. It also beat Path of Exile 1's highest ever concurrency, which was 350k in July 2024. So yeah, old game, but no slouch. And of course, it's not even free to play yet. All of this represents at least $30 of revenue, so yes, this is a lot of money for the company. And through the weekend, it of course was topping Steam's bestseller list. But it's not only selling in Steam. As an example, my PC, well, it must have got access to my Twitter feed because my PC rapidly unalived itself, so I've been playing on PS5. It actually hit rank 6 on the PlayStation and Xbox stores, and much like Diablo 4, my god, this game feels amazing to play on the controller. It's incredible. Now, the launch was...
Now, I haven't played it on controller yet, but I mean, the game just feels good, period. But I want to say something real quick. Like, I know Diablo 4 probably had more players and stuff, and especially like over time. I want to be honest. I don't think this game will reach the height of Diablo 4 or something. Because Diablo 4, this seems more casual. I say that like when a casual player or a person who hasn't ever played or, you know, probably only seen Path of Exile once, the skill tree, it looks intimidating. And that probably turns off a lot of people, even though the skill, it's a passive tree. It's really what it is. It's a passive tree. And it looks very, very complicated. You know, it looks intimidating when you just look at it because it's so big and so many nodes on it, but it's really not. It's not that bad. But I think because of people just seeing that, seeing how big it is, seeing how many nodes there are, they just won't give it a try. You know? So I think that's going to kind of hold this game back. I think people should know, you know, I know the skill tree looks big and everything, all those nodes. It's simple. You just have to read and pick what you want. You know, you want some lightning damage over here? Well, make your way over there and get those. You want some armor? Well, make your way over here, get yourself some armor. You know, you just have to find what you want and just make your way over to it. It's really not that complicated. And this is coming from a person who's dyslexic. You know, I have trouble reading sometimes, but when I really want to learn and do something, I will figure that shit out. But yeah, I'm keep reveling on.
Was good and not good, but for good reason. Grinding Gear reached 1 million early access redemptions. Yeah, redemptions, there's a few little asterisks there that I'll get into later.
What is
They hit
redemption?
that before the launch, and they knew the servers would be a problem. They actually had way more success than they thought, than they forecasted, which is almost surprising to me. It just seems like this was inevitably going to be a humongous event. I guess they modeled for humongous and got double humongous. Anyway, the servers were completely rammed. A last-minute crash that hit the majority of users was found, so they delayed the launch, but eventually the game came out, and just about all was well. Over on Twitch, well over 1 million people were watching, and even SteamDB...
We sat there for like 5 hours. It was a long time to be get in if you weren't there on launch, man, or watching any streams. Oh my god, well, it was a fun day. We actually got to play it, so
broke. And that's pretty wild because it was literally just people checking how the launch was doing. Let's talk about numbers and money though. This is a little bit of bro math, but it actually does have a point. Path of Exile 2 is pulling higher than Helldivers 2 in terms of its concurrence on Steam. And whenever it's dipping down,
okay, come on. Okay, wait, let's look at this. I'm trying to figure this out. Is this a fair comparison? Because PoE just came out, so yes, it's going to have a higher, uh, player count, 24-hour count, and that, but it did peak higher than Helldivers 2. Can we really look at the 24-hour peak right now? This is old, so I don't think this is a fair comparison. If this is shown like back when Helldivers 2 first came out, acceptable. But I don't think the numbers dropped that fast. So these numbers, it's a little unfair to say.
into the troughs, it still is over 200k. It's doing incredibly. Now, even, yeah, you look at Helldivers 2's launch, it's got its strange server problems that make the chart look really quite funny, but the point is, both are selling extremely well, and there are similar launch spikes. Now, Path of Exile 2 beat Helldivers 2 to the 1 million mark because it hit 1 million access codes redeemed before launch. Helldivers 2 took 3 days to hit 1 million sales. 6 weeks post-launch, Bloomberg reported 8 million Helldivers 2 sales, and by 12 weeks, we got a number of 12 million Helldivers 2 sales, with about 60% being in PC. Now, I don't think Path of Exile 2 will overall hit as broadly as Helldivers did, but I actually do bring it up.
Yeah, but I do think, I'm sorry I keep pausing it, but I do think it's going to have more player count over time over Helldivers 2. For the fact is, there's just more to do in PoE 2. Just more. Helldivers 2 doesn't really have anything to hold you. It has something to grab you. The gameplay is fun, you know. Going to these different planets, trying to get different weapons, like level up to get different weapons and stuff. It's fun, but besides that, that's not really much to do to hold you in the game for a long period of time, you know. PoE 2 does, I can't even talk, does, if you really enjoy this game, you got a campaign, you got, the end game, then you have like the build crafting, you have all kinds of different classes. That's like 4 things, and you probably have more too, it's just so much that's gonna be able to hold these players. I mean, the whole players period, but Helldivers didn't really have that, like I said. So I think over time, this game PoE 2 is gonna hold the players a lot longer, and it's gonna hold a lot more.
Really for a reason here, for a point. Helldivers 2 was a surprise. That's why it was such a viral, word of mouth hit. And in many ways with Path of Exile 2, it's achieving the same. Grinding Gear Games had expectations for this. Those expectations were probably modeled off how many people were playing Path of Exile 1, right? But what we've seen is viral word of mouth carrying Path of Exile 2. And that's because, well, it's actually managed to do something that is altogether more ambitious, risky, and impressive. We live in a world where many games don't earn their marketing copy. Path of Exile 2 does.
Evolution.
So it's billed as a next-generation ARPG. And it really is. See, here's the thing. I've realized I actually don't like ARPGs in the traditional sense. Once the sugar rush ends, I am just incapable of caring. The gear doesn't work for me. But Path of Exile 2 actually does click. Another one that clicked for me is No Rest for the Wicked. Both are refreshingly different.
I haven't played
RPGs,
that.
and that's what Grinding Gear seems to have pulled off. And it's why I brought up Helldivers, because it was a big surprise, right? That's why it sold so much better than Arrowhead, even optimistically modeled. So whenever you hear a game being billed as, this is the Skyrim of that, or the Dark Souls of this, you often roll your eyes and think, oh, really? That's the. But no, in this case, actually, kind of is like that. Path of Exile 2 is slower, it's more methodical, it's got a dodge roll, and a dodge roll that feels pretty damn good. And that's
Oh, it's gonna
allowed
get
grinding gear to.
it's gonna get a lot faster though. If you just go on Twitch and watch some clips and stuff, people are moving. I mean, it's slow because it just came out and people are just learning. But once people learn, yeah, it's people are gonna be zooming through this. You're gonna be seeing like I seen a monk build and this guy was just like everywhere. People are gonna be able to move fast, but they're just learning right now. Watch, it's gonna get crazy. I mean, people already got the damage down. Go watch some clips, man. One shot and two shot and bosses. They already got that down.
Design the combat differently. It's slower, it's harder, it actually feels way more engaging and involved to me than just a big numbers go brr. You know, the actual feeling of skill and mastery is really there. That's why I'm continuing to play it. It's why I liked the bit of No Rest for the Wicked that I played. And most importantly for today, it's not what people tend to expect from the ARPG genre. And I've got to wonder if that positive word of mouth, people saying, yeah, this is an ARPG, but it's actually different. It's trying more. The boss fights are actually worth doing just for being good boss fights in a game. That is a type of word of mouth and being ambitious with the design of this game that actually seems to be moving the needle and making this hit harder than grinding gear even expected. And when we look at both it and Diablo 4 and try to learn lessons, it actually gets more interesting. Both are games that are basically channeling a hell of a lot of Diablo 2, and they are both games that try to slow the pace way down and amp up the meaning. That's what D4 tried to do with its launch, but well, it didn't really work that well. Now, there are many parts of D4 that I think are pretty excellent, but it didn't really land its design. And post-launch, it's basically succeeded by turning itself into a far more fast-paced game, essentially borrowing lessons from Diablo 3, which means that, yeah, there is a new Diablo game to play.
There's nothing wrong with that. Like Diablo 4 is okay. It's fine. You know, it's just when it first came out, it had no end game really. Like the only thing you were really working for is Uber Lilith, and that was like the only thing. Dungeons weren't good, really, because they're all mostly the same. Bosses too didn't have many bosses. They're just recycled a lot. Like you fight the same 5, 6 bosses in same looking dungeons all over the map. It just wasn't good. The end game wasn't good, but the gameplay, you know, I don't want to lie, it was fun. You know, if it if I just had, you know, more to do with the gameplay, you know, it probably would. I don't know, but like Path of Exile already has so many. I've seen so many. Like I haven't beat the campaign. Yes, I'm trying to beat it. I'm in the third act, but you know, I've already seen so many bosses, so many enemy types, and this ain't even a full game. We still have 3 more acts that are coming later when the full game launches. Then you have the end game. You know, they cut the campaign in half for early access and stuff, and started focusing on the end game. And I'd seen so many bosses already that look so unique. Just the map and stuff looks so big, and you know it's just so it just have so much. Like this is the evolution. Like this is stuff you can do in this game over Diablo 4. PoE 2 is a evolution compared to that game, because Diablo 4 is just mid. You know, if you're a really hardcore player, you know, like to make builds and stuff, and like the end game, Diablo 4 is just mid. Okay, yes, you can call the story bad if you want. You can call it good. I I mean, either way, besides the story and the gameplay, like, your character and stuff, how your character works and everything, it's the game is just mid, you know? Like the cutscenes in Diablo 4 were cool, you know. Um and I mean that's really all I can say about the yeah, I'm going to stop rambling.
But it's not really one that's daring, that's next generation, right? Whereas here, Path of Exile 2, it has also tried to be a little bit slower, a little bit more methodical, but it's actually managed to stick the landing and succeed, and that is a humongous achievement. And in the biggest picture, that's because, let's just say you're somebody who loved Elden Ring, and tens of millions of people are in that category. Well, Diablo 4 would have very little to offer you. They do not play any way similar. Path of Exile 2 can credibly target that market and get non-ARPG grinders in. And that means that this could truly, truly expand the genre. I don't want to shock you, but expectations sort of do matter. And while expectations for this were high, it was also well built to handle things not being perfect. Diablo 4 launched at a big full premium price, with of course a premium early access on top of that. And that
So
meant players
much.
were rightly scathing whenever things just did not feel that well thought out. PoE 2 though is overtly an early access game, right? That's the whole point. And the core of it kind of just goes like this. The world is rich. Big Diablo 2 vibes. It's immersive. It's dense. The gameplay is absolutely outstanding. The bosses are refreshingly outstanding for the genre, unlike, say, Diablo 4, where a lot of people were kind of disappointed by that. And then, of course, there's Path of Exile's home turf, Buildcraft. Frankly, it terrifies me. It's nearly limitless, but it's that in a way that's all about the player freedom and expression. Just looking at clips, looking at GIFs on Twitter, the amount of cool shit that people are building is genuinely kind of inspiring. However, it does share one thing with Diablo 4, and that is not a lot of praise for loot. For now, what I understand is basically whenever you level up, the vendors will refresh, and actually quite often you'll be getting your better sources of gear from those vendors, at least in the earlier level up flow. And it's kind of funny because
I mean, they fixed that now. When did this video come out? Because I guess 9 hours ago. So I wonder when he made this video, because they have fixed the loot problem. They upped it a little bit. It feels a lot more rewarding, but you know, I'm fine with it now. I was okay with it. The part I wasn't okay with is the material to craft and stuff. It was so hard to get that to actually, engage with the crafting system. So, you had on this hand loop I said loot is barely dropping. On this hand, the materials to craft are barely dropping or whatever. So it's like you have to give up on one, or just up both a little bit, and they fixed that problem. And once you get into like the third act and stuff, so far, like since the patch, because I just got there, I'm getting tons of loot and stuff now, and tons of stuff to craft. Like it's ridiculous, but I'm okay with that because I want to engage with the crafting system more than picking up loot. But if you don't know how crafting works, you just don't go to like a thing and craft a new weapon. No, you take a weapon you pick up. It can be a white item. Do you turn it to a blue? Then you can put, more perks on it. I'm just gonna say perks. More perks on it, right? Then you can make that blue item into uh, a gold item and put more perks on it. And that's really what crafting is. You picking up items and you making a higher rarity, and putting more stats on it. You know, at first I was kind of confused on it, like when I first played PoE 1. So if you didn't know, there you go.
D4 got loot wrong with launch. But, right, the thing that matters here the most is the core gameplay and the build craft, and those absolutely seem to be outweighing the loot concerns. Plus, it's early access. That means players have got reasonable expectations. Right now, the game has got half of its campaign. You basically complete it again in hard mode, and then you're into the end game. And it's even funny the way that happened, because Path of Exile 2 initially started off in 2019 as a new campaign for Path of Exile. Basically, things escalated and now we're here. And by the time they hit 2024, they realized something. Well, we shouldn't do the rest of the campaign right now. We need to do a launch with a full-ass endgame. And that's exactly what they did. Here's a quote from them. This is them talking about their recent development. Part of what we're trying to do with early access is get the game right, and I think that if we had scaled endgame down, then we wouldn't really be getting the true reflection of what the game would be. And that, folks, is the kicker, the big thing. Diablo 4 did not have any of that, and I again do not say this to bash Blizzard developers. Seriously, I don't. Most people are good and want to do good, and as developers, they would have killed for a launch like Path of Exile 2, one that had reasonably set expectations, that wasn't asking for so much money even though core parts of the game were kind of ill thought out, one that's basically designed to make the game over time as best as it can be for their players with their players. And even sticking within ARPGs, we have another success story from this year in Last Epoch. It did just that. But for the biggest picture, we need to look at another game that's similar in a way, and that's Baldur's Gate 3. Obviously, totally different games, but it released with just...
Last Epoch is really good too. I mean, I think it suffers from the same problem as Diablo 4, but I feel like Last Epoch is like in between Diablo 4 and PoE, right? Because I say that with like the gear and the build crafting in the game. It's like in the middle of those two, because it's not as complicated as PoE, but it's not, you know, it's not as what's the word I'm looking for, dumbed down as Diablo 4. No, I can't really say dumbed down, but simple. It's not as simple as D4. It's like in the middle, because the build you can do in Last Epoch is really cool, but it suffers from its end game. You know, once you get past the story mode and everything, the campaign, it kind of falls off. But anyways,
a fraction of its content in early access, and that gave Larian the finances, feedback, and the time that they needed to make what is easily one of the world's best ever role-playing games. And why? Well, because that was slowly made with their community over time, and that is exactly what Grinding Gear have set themselves up to do here. Of course, like Larian, their one thing, the literal mission of the company is ARPGs, and that gets me to the real point. Larian and Grinding Gear had experience and control. What did Blizzard Entertainment have? They had scale, chaos, pressure, and misery. So whenever I say that you should care about how your games are made, this is why. Because we want them to actually be good. Diablo 4 is a really strange project. It started off as an over-the-shoulder action game, then it was rebooted, and then all spare resources were poured into finishing the damn thing. All, of course, to hit its big release target. And from the CEO's vantage point, it of course worked. D4 was an astounding success, one of the games of all time, the fastest-selling Blizzard game in history. 12 million players within 2 months. And of those millions, how many purchased the far more expensive Early Access Edition? Probably quite a few. I mean, within 6 days, it generated
but I'm a content creator.
$66 million of revenue, and that, folks, is stonks. Leaks suggest $1 billion in revenue by September 2024, with $150 million coming from microtransactions up to that point. Yet, through a lot of that time span, the players were not happy. Even though those amazing numbers were there, the game was clearly not ready. Core systems did not stand to reason. Their foundational gameplay hypothesis of an open world full of objectives that you would basically re-clear every season was almost immediately proven to be wrong and boring. I mean, basically it was saying, would you like the structure of an Ubisoft game, and every season you can clear the map again? No, obviously that was never going to work. Fundamental aspects of itemization were broken. Now, credit where it's due. The Diablo 4 team have actually busted their asses to fix as many parts of that game as they could. But the point is, they could have delayed that game, and we could have got a Diablo 4 that was substantially better and that dodged so many of those player concerns. But we didn't get that. Again, $666 million of revenue in 6 days. They obviously needed to ship it when they were going to ship it, and with a scale like that, the dev team are not the people who are making the calls. They're not calling the shots.
Yeah.
This game, Path of Exile 2, is early access. Right now, it costs under half the price of D4's base.
People need to understand, like, a lot of times the developers aren't the one calling the shots at all. Like, it's the people above them, you know, like they want this stuff out. They want all this other stuff in it, and I can only imagine being a developer. You can't say no. You just can't, because you're gonna get fired or suspended or something. You know, you just gotta, okay, yeah, we'll put that in. You know, you're over here like, fuck, I really don't want to put this in. The players aren't gonna like it. I could understand, like, being a developer. You know, if you have a job and you know your boss tells you to do something and you know it's a bad idea, you really don't want to do it. Well, you can't say no, because either, you know, you're gonna get suspended, fired, or they're just gonna get somebody else to do it. You know, so like I we can't blame everything on developers. You know, now there's some things we can, but you know, a lot of it we not a lot of it, but some of it we can't, because it's not their fault. You know, they want to make good games. I'm pretty sure nobody wants to make a crap game that nobody's gonna like and, you know, talk bad about their game. And maybe they thought it was a good idea. You know, we all have shit opinions and shit ideals sometimes. We just do. We're human. You know, we're just people.
Base edition. And on top of that, many longtime Path of Exile players got it for free. And the way that worked is pretty neat. If you've ever purchased a top edition supporter pack, or if you've spent over the lifetime of your account $480, you get access to it. This matters. That is actually goodwill. That is money from some of their players with the deepest pockets that they just sort of said, nah, we'll just give it to you. Keep on playing Path of Exile. They've also ensured that they're not like killing PoE 1. PoE 1 was amazingly supported for years and years and years and years, building up goodwill. Meanwhile, with Blizzard, what happened? Well, Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls was, you know, kind of killed in the grave. They sort of abandoned expansions when they actually could have got lots of success there. The point isn't that one team is perfect and the other one makes nothing but mistakes. No, in both cases, you've got developers who will make mistakes and will want to learn from their launch.
Yeah.
With Diablo 4, it is a humongously staffed behemoth that is rigid, hard to move, and is not under that team's explicit control. With Path of Exile, they've overtly planned for open development. Now, sure, the network team may have needed some crisis meetings, and yeah, we're seeing totally busted combos being nerfed, but nothing close to the, oh dear, our foundational design hypothesis that we basically didn't beta test at all appears to be wrong and the players are not happy. Which is what would have happened inside Blizzard, and must have stung. And that's the power of designing for early access. No rushing to hit the quarterly earnings, quite the opposite. PoE 2 was in fact delayed. See a lot of that account stuff, cross, like microtransactions and everything? Well, the game was delayed because they basically had to re-architect all of their server and account stuff to make that work, because yeah, there's like shared microtransactions. And the games are going to be running concurrently as well. Grinding Gear know that PoE 2 is different in a way that some people will not like. That actually means that PoE 2 has a reason to exist, unlike a certain other sequel from a certain other company that's probably in both of our minds right now. But that's not the final point. We're going to have to talk about scale, because the numbers here, I don't want to say they're shocking, but my god, do they prove a point. If you go onto LinkedIn right now, you will see that Grinding Gear Games have got between 51 and 200 employees. Quickly Googling around, I've seen it being reported as like 140, 150, and I'm sure there will be more people in the credits, like outsourcing and stuff.
Yeah.
But that's a fraction of the Diablo team. In fact, right? I have it. I have it from sources as of last year that Diablo was the single largest game team at Blizzard Entertainment, and at one point, I know World of Warcraft in and around that time was about 550 people. So you likely had north of 600 as the core dev team of Diablo 4, and that comes out as a bit of a troubled project, even though it sells a lot, makes money up front. We then look at this game, a game that is not burdened by having to find work for 600 to 1,000 people to do, because what the hell? How are you going to make a game that way that's actually good and crafted? Okay, I'm going to play a lot more Path of Exile. We will keep you up to date in this story because it's one of the good ones. And sticking with good ones, watch this next. It's really fun. It's basically GOG giving...
I would play it too right now, but the servers are down. I just got kicked out. But I love this. Path of Exile is so good, and it's so cool that like you can go back to the first. If you don't like the second one, they're still supporting the first one, which is awesome. Like I'm a Destiny 2 player, and they don't support Destiny 1. That's in the background, but they support Destiny 2. But a lot of people, some people still like Destiny 1. You know, there's thousands of people that still play Destiny 1. Personally, I don't know why. Destiny 2 is way better, more fluid. It's just a better game. But, you know, it kind of sucks that they get no support. Not even a little bit, you know. But with grinding gear games, that's so awesome. Like he said, like they understand like some people aren't gonna like PoE 2, you know. So they're just gonna want to play PoE 1. And they can expect updates. That's awesome. But I like his videos good, give him a like. First time, okay, I can't. I'm gonna link this in the chat. Anyways, give him a like, subscribe to him if you want. I've seen his videos before. Asmongold watches them a lot. Yeah, I might have to watch some more of his videos. If you want, you can leave me a like, subscribe to me, and ring that bell for more videos. And I'm gonna have probably like 2 more videos. You can watch my reactions or whatever's over here. And have a good day or night whenever you're watching this. Peace.